Hi, welcome to Notes from the Road. I'm your host, Evan Peary. I've spent more than a decade on tour with acts like Pentatonix, Dan & Shay, and Andy Mineo. And I've slept everywhere from tour buses and floors to one-star hotel rooms and 15-passenger vans. My goal with this podcast is to provide a window into the side of touring life you don't see on Instagram or MTV. The behind-the-scenes, nitty-gritty tales of comedy, chaos, and camaraderie. Every episode, I'll be speaking with a different touring professional I've met along the way, giving them the opportunity to tell their story of how they got started, where they're headed, and everything else in between. This episode, I'm joined by Thomas Falcone, whose touring resume includes Big Sean, Dillon Francis, and All Time Low, among others. Thomas, a New York native, is a visual storyteller. He's the one who gives fans a glimpse into an artist's daily life through his unique style of candid photography. His story starts out in small New Jersey clubs shooting local artists and leads to flying all over the world with some of the biggest musicians of our time. We talk about sticking to your vision, earning artist trust, and fake IDs as currency. This is Notes from the Road with Thomas Falcone. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, sir.
Today we have touring photographer Thomas Falcone joining us to give us another completely different take on the touring industry and to see kind of where he got his start, how he's progressed, and gotten to the level and elevation that he's been to.
Yes, sir.
I know some of his credits include, right now, currently, Dillon Francis. This is the first active touring podcast where Thomas is about to leave on tour. So like we're doing this in a hotel room.
I actually kind of like that too. Like this is cool.
That's part of the goal in it.
That's
is maybe
really
to
I didn't even think about that. I was like, man.
Yeah, it's to hopefully like catch people passing through Nashville.
Yeah, that's really cool. Actually.
So we're in Nashville still, but Thomas is on the road. So I'm excited because this is like the true feeling of that. But so lately some of his larger photography credits include both Dillon Francis and then working with Big Sean, which he did for a very reasonably stint.
Very long time, All Time Low. And then when I'm at home, I still, whenever we have time off, I'll grind. Like I still will be like, all right, we have like 3 weeks off. Like I'm gonna book as much as I can at home.
Thomas truly becoming a New Yorker because that's where he's based these days. New York City, Brooklyn. But let's jump way back. So give me a little gist of like how you, like what your infatuation with photography was, and then the starting point. Like, was there some schooling, or did you kind of learn on your own? And then we'll jump into kind of like how you got on the road, et cetera.
Yeah, I mean, so I used to play drums, and this is, I feel like that's how it starts. Your parents give you like, a drum kit or something, because it's like, man, like I love music. So and that was kind of how it all started. I was trying to be in a band. Band didn't work out. We didn't tour. We didn't play one show. We were just like jamming. It was like super cool. We were like 15 years old. Like it was fun. That's how it all started. It's just like one thing sparks another interest, and then I felt like I dug pretty deep in the music industry aspect of it. And I was like, man, like there's so much going. I feel like not a lot of people think of it like that. They just go, oh wow, like you're in a band and you're not in a band, or like you're an artist and you're not an artist, and it's like no.
So
like
similar age, and you just start observing there's a lot of other people and a lot of other moving parts.
And I feel like like I was saying, I feel like it's really hard for a kid at 16 to be like, oh well, I want to build the stage, or like I want to be behind the scenes. Because I think a lot of the time, just the idea of being the artist or like a celebrity is like obviously is a pretty cool or whatever you want to call it like thing that is, formulated.
That's most teenagers' aspiration. Exactly, they don't understand that there's so much more involved in that. That they just think like I play guitar and I want to be a lead singer and I'm going to be in a band.
So I obviously looked at it like, no, I don't care anymore. Like I'm just gonna do something that's completely different. So I started going to shows and I met this one photographer. It was Jonathan Vaccaro, and he doesn't tour. He was just like a dude that took pictures at these like local shows.
And where? New Jersey. We're in New Jersey.
In Montclair.
Yeah.
So
are you from New Jersey originally?
No. But I obviously liked all these bigger artists back then, but for some reason, like MySpace brought me to like these really small, like New Jersey bands.
Very strong scene in New Jersey. That's
I was making my parents drive me to New Jersey once or twice a month.
From where though? So where were you based?
From Westchester, New York. So maybe like
not
an hour
super
and a half.
far.
No,
Not super far.
No.
Okay,
but it was cool. It was like this little community that like these local bands were just like playing cool shows, and like the music was awesome. And
now that I think about that name again, and you saying that, I bet he's probably more about my age, because I feel like I don't know if I never met him personally, but
Definitely.
I would see those photos because
he'd always have his tag at the bottom. I was like, man, this dude is like, this is cool.
And growing up where I grew up, you know, now that I like meet people and talk to people, you know, both in sort of the scene world and then people that you think don't know anything about the music that we sort of existed in, but then they were the biggest fans.
Exactly.
They go, you lived in New Jersey in that timeline of like, Saves the Day. And like even like a Taking Back Sunday, where they were from New York, but they were close enough and they played a lot of shows 100%. In Jersey. And, you know, it's like there were all these bands sort of in that early 2000 era that like I was just privy to by proxy because I was close.
Dude, I loved it. Like,
it's awesome to hear that you were like making your parents bring you down.
Oh, my parents were stoked. They were like, man, this is really cool that our son is getting involved in like another asset of like a community that's not involved with like sports. Because I used to play sports. But the way that I kind of went about it, I was like, Mom, like, Dad, this is like art, you know, this is something that not a lot of kids are into, but like, I think it'll be really cool for like me to start going to like shows and like just meeting new people and like experiencing a kind of different side of what all my friends at home are doing, which is, you know, sometimes kind of hit or miss if parents are like accepting of that, I guess.
I mean, I think my parents were somewhere in the middle. Sometimes they were totally cool, and then sometimes I would, because same, I was locally in New Jersey, kind of. I had friends who let me hang around and see what was going on, and I would come home late, and I remember, you know, my mom not being happy about that sometimes, but I was not getting in trouble. I was staying out of trouble, and that was the point. I'm sure maybe that's why your parents were. Well,
that's the thing, you know, and they would see how happy I was like going to these shows, and then that's why I started picking up a camera, because I saw this one dude do it. And then, you know, because it was kind of like not like a party, but like, you know, for example, I would be so excited like the next couple days to be like, man, like I'm going to follow this dude, Jonathan, and see the pictures of the show that I went to. You know, it's kind of like a, you know, like a wedding or something. It's like, man, like I'm so excited to relive that.
Right.
And that was something that I like absolutely fell in love with doing, was following his work. And then I was like, man, why don't I just do this? Like, why don't I just bring a random like small little camera and like talk to this dude? And, you know, him and I spoke a little bit, and he kind of showed me a little bit of what he was doing and why he was doing it. And then that's when I started like investing. But I started investing in like nicer cameras and equipment and stuff like that. But I would still keep going to these smaller shows. Like, dude, maybe like 50 people there. Like, fuck, what's the venue called? Hamilton Street Cafe.
I remember that one.
Dude,
that
was like...
I don't think it exists anymore.
No, it doesn't.
There's a lot of that.
They changed it. And then there was... I used to go to School of Rock all the time in Hackensack, New Jersey.
Honestly,
and then there was a couple more.
Didn't really hang out in that place until I did shows there. Like, because coming from like Central Jersey, that was like kind of that would have been far.
Well, for like and it's kind of in the middle of nowhere where Hamilton Street was.
But all of those places were kind of formative for so many kids in the greater tri-state area. So like New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, like kids would drive because the window isn't super far. You know, it's like 2 to 3 hours at the most. Yeah. So I knew plenty of kids that would follow bands like that were doing like a New York, New Jersey, and a PA show.
It was so cool, man. It was like that. So yeah, I'll always, and it's funny because, you know, I've been to my parents' house. I don't know when did I do this? So whatever. So I have a drawer in my parents' house of like 8 or 5x7 prints from these shows, because, you know, I was like, man, like Mom, like I want to print these pictures, because that's when, like, you know, this was 9 years ago or something. I was like, man, I want to like start a photo album and this and that. And that's when I was like really getting involved, and I was trying different formulas and, you know, like formats of photography and stuff like that. Sure. And that's when like all that stuff was cool.
Right. Well, and also I feel like in that era, that's still sort of social media.
Oh, 1,000,000%.
You know, so people could see your photos somewhere, but you know what, to really show, you could still, printing was still probably the best
even back
way.
then when I was shooting, like when this dude Jonathan was shooting as well, it was only MySpace, and it was only like there was no Instagram. Right. Facebook was just becoming a thing. So he was like, how else do you get yourself
showcase
out there?
your photography.
So like I remember bringing an actual photo album to one of these shows, being like, dude, this is what I shot for you guys like a month ago.
Right,
you know?
So you were bringing your portfolio with you.
Literally bringing my pictures. Like, I know it's like, everyone's probably like, dude, how old is this kid? Like, what is he doing? But
For the record, how old are you? Because
I'm 27.
Yeah, so you were a 16, 17-year-old kid.
Oh,
which
yeah.
had to be impressive to some people
awesome.
that, I'm sure not all those bands were your age. I'm sure they were.
No, they were. They were like 21 to like 24.
Yeah.
So I remember doing a photo shoot for this one band, and the lead singer kind of looked like me, and the payment was a fake ID.
Stop.
I swear to God.
See, this is what I want to get out of this.
It's
I know
so good,
everybody's
dude. I have
got
like
amazing stories like this.
So his name is Matt Condon. I'll never forget it, man. And I was 17.
Right.
I made my parents drive me out there, and they were like, "Are you like?" Because it was a personal photo shoot. It was
right.
like for the band, it was like promo pictures.
Right.
And I was like, man, like this cool band is like, they want me to take pictures of them. It's like really personal, And this is when I started getting into like portrait stuff and all that stuff. And my parents were like, well, are you going to charge them? Like, what are you going to, like, how do you learn that?
Sure, like everybody's parents wonder,
exactly.
Is there something more to this than you do this
So
for
I
fun?
ended up telling my mom, I was like, dude, like, they're giving me a fake ID. I swear to God. My mom was like, you're kidding me, right? Like, I don't approve this.
Absolutely amazing.
So, yeah. Dude, I had that fake ID for a very long time.
Yeah, well, if you were only 17, I'm sure.
So
oh boy,
I went to whatever. But.
All right, so from this point, so you're. I mean, I imagine you're still in high school.
Yes,
you're locally doing this, and which I think that's got to be most people that are doing any type of media like yourself. Yeah, well, anything for the most part. But like you were like versus me, I was just paying attention, wondering what people were doing and how like I knew I wasn't. Musically talented enough. I just knew it, and I accepted that. But I started to notice like what else is kind of available. But like for you, at least you were actively out there at that point already. Shooting photos and trying to hone a craft. So what's the next step from that point? Like college at all, or any type of studying to learn more about your craft, or was it all?
So when I was shooting in New Jersey, just like I started with a point and shoot, and then I had invested in like a Canon Rebel, which is a DSLR.
Yeah, a basic
super
DSLR.
basic. I had like one lens; it was fine. So at that point, it was all pretty much self-taught. It was a lot of talking to other people. How do I do this? A lot of reading, and honestly, a lot of it was just looking at other people's work and then hitting them up and be like, dude, what lens did you use for that? Or like, did you use a flash? Or like, and that's how I learned, was just like talking to other people and trying it out and then doing it myself at a show.
Sure.
And these shows, you didn't need access. You didn't need a photo pass or anything. You just brought your camera.
And you just got your way to the front.
Yeah, exactly. It was, it was like I said, like 50 people before. So I was trying stuff, and during that time I was trying stuff, and I would look at other photographers and be like, man, what are they doing that's like so different? So I was pretty much self-taught, and then I took a class in high school that was like a black and white, pretty typical.
Sure.
Teacher hated me, basically almost failed, which is so true. I feel like that's a lot of people's stories. Like, they're like, oh, dude, I'm a great photographer now. Like, I almost failed my high school class.
Or even musicians that were like, I almost got kicked out of music class. Like, they could tell that I was after something, but I was not listening. Yeah. So you had an eye, but the teacher, you weren't listening to like the lessons.
I also wasn't like the best student. I was just like, man, I'm not going to do my work, or like, I think a lot of what I saw, and even when I did go to college, and I'll go into that for a second. But a lot of the times it's like, you need to do this in 5 days for an assignment. And it's like, I'll be honest with you, I know this might sound crazy, but art is not just formed. Like, you can't just force something. And like, yeah, you can do photo shoots and everything, but like if you're gonna do like documentary work and stuff like that, you just gotta just go on the fly.
Right.
So that was what I was kind of trying to do. And that's what I still kind of do now.
So you're saying it's art with the constraint of school, and that's why
exactly.
I feel like in talking with just artists and I get and photographers and any of the arts, I guess people skip schools because they feel like it ruins the creative part of that side of it, because then it's too constrained. There's too many constraints. It's too format. It's too formulated.
Exactly. And I mean, so then I eventually went to college, and I liked it. It was fine. It was whatever. But honestly, I think a lot of it was the critiquing part of it. A lot of people saying, oh, you're doing this wrong, or like, this is not correct. I'm like, what do you mean this is not correct? Like, this is how I want it to look. And I feel like when I was in school, it was very like a lot of people just hating on my stuff. And, like I went to school for 2 years and I left the program. It was a 2-year program. I graduated it. It was great. Like
so this was college. This is college. This short program. Okay.
Yeah, I was in Boston. And, but it was just so, just so many people just telling me I was wrong. I was like, man, like I'm not wrong. Like, what are you talking about? Like, go to a museum and like look at like a piece of art, and you're gonna tell like Picasso that he's wrong, or like someone that, you know what I mean? It was just mind blowing.
I mean, like most art, it's a subjective field.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
And so and to think about some of the greatest creators of more our generation. Not to go down this road, but if we think of it like a Kanye, like
100%,
controversial human, 100%. I don't think that can be argued.
No, not even close.
But you know, some people love it. It's polarizing. Every I think most artists are. You know, like I think that especially ones that were pushing envelopes for their time period.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, so like even a Picasso in his time, he wasn't appreciated.
No,
to the same extent that we now like the price tag that we put on it, or the value that is put on that work. So. Yeah, and I feel like
it's really interesting.
So yeah, you have a great that's a great story though that you had, but you just had a different vision from
I just had a different vision. I was just so, and I'm a very like, dude, if someone's gonna tell me I'm wrong, like I'm gonna fucking prove you wrong.
Right.
Like, you know, and that even came down to people being like, oh, you want to go on the road and tour with bands? Like, good luck, you know, and that I'm a very like motivated person when it comes down to that stuff, and especially when it comes down to something that I believe in and that like I want to work for with like an art, you know, subjective.
Yeah. So what's that? So people telling you maybe
it was just like so many people just hating on my stuff, and I was so bummed out because like a lot of my stuff was really personal. Like I loved it, and I just couldn't wrap it around my head why like not a lot of people liked my work, and I was like, man, what is going on?
But so then transition that into, and then people telling you like, oh,
and then there were some people who were
like bands or tour. So like what? So
that's why
that process to push you to then figure that out.
So you know, when I took the classes in school, it was an editorial class, which I wanted to do, you know, like magazine work and, you know, like studio stuff and this and that. And then I did a portraiture class, which still leads into...
Which I imagine, though, that those are still good grounds. Like, even if if your vision and aesthetic isn't the same as whatever the professor was, having the background, or at least the base.
That's why I took those classes as well. Because, like, you know, for me, I went into it trying to do more technical stuff. Because I was like, well, dude, if I know the technical... I can do whatever I need to do.
You can apply the technical to your spin on it.
my aesthetic, or, you know, whatever. So that's why I pretty much went to school, just to kind of like learn like more lighting or, you know, whatever. So then they were like, oh, you know, we had to do like 6-year or 10-year plans, and they were like, I was like,
it doesn't matter what it doesn't matter what you go to school for, that comes up.
So you know, I was like, man, it'd be really cool to like go on the road, and you know. Because I was shooting all these bands, and I was doing like more musicians when I was in Boston, and I just thought it was cool to, you know, go on the road. And I think it was getting more popular when I was doing more stuff like that, and I just, you know, kept meeting people, and you know, eventually it worked out. But.
Okay, so what was the transition then from locally kind of getting? And I imagine by that point you were getting yourself to and from shows. And,
So that's when I was in college.
Yeah,
I was still shooting. So that's when I moved from New York to Boston. And it was really hard because, you know, I think a lot of people were like, damn, like this kid's from New York. He doesn't know any people in Boston, but like he's still shooting like all these people. Like, how's he doing that? And it's because I brought my connections from, you know, like the promoters or like whoever was giving me these photo passes to then be like, hey, well, do you know people in Boston? Because I'm about to move there.
Right.
So that's when I eventually told everyone that I was moving there, brought my connections up there, started shooting shows and doing all that stuff. So yeah. Wait, I forgot.
Well, no, and so then from that point of like, you know, you're in school and you're in Boston. What's the transition to like who did you meet to then end up on the road, or how did you get your?
So do you know this story?
No, that's why I'm genuine.
Wait, are you serious?
I'm genuinely asking.
Okay,
you.
So
and maybe I know, but it's been a while.
This might blow your mind.
Yeah,
I'm not lying to you.
That's what I'm trying to get at with all this. Is like I have so many people that I've known forever and ever. You know, and I know their basic story, but I don't know the start, and that's what I really want.
I'm about to blow your mind right now.
But that's really what I want to explore here, is because like I feel like everybody has that. This is that crux moment of how did it happen? You know, how did you go from being local photographer Thomas Falcone to touring?
I was living with a girl at the time, and I was like, we should have a party tonight. I swear on my life, this is a story.
All right.
I was like, we should have a party tonight. Invite whoever you need, and she knew some dudes in like the music industry. She wasn't like a band chick, but she wanted to also tour, et cetera, et cetera. She knew some local people, whatever. So we're like in our apartment, and she's like, dude, this dude who works for Mayday Parade is about to come here. And I was like, wait, what? Like,
okay.
And I was hammered. She's like, yeah, like, you know, I don't know how he wants to come here or like who he's coming with, but like, he works for Mayday Parade. Obviously, we know who he is, blah, blah, whatever. I was like, okay, this is great. Like, this is fucking phenomenal.
And so give me a year, what year
this is 2011.
Okay.
Yeah, 2011. So Mike Finn, who is my current tour manager, walks into my apartment and I'm wasted. Like, dude, like, do you want to drink? Like, do you want to play games? Like, I was just trying to like cater to him because I looked up to him, or like, you know, I just met him. I wanted to like get my in.
Sure.
Because, you know, my roommate at the time was like, yeah, like, he's a big deal. Like, he knows everyone. Like, he tours for a living. I'm like, man, that's so cool. Like, fuck yeah.
This is going to be, I hope this podcast doesn't turn into like Kevin Bacon, like 6 Degrees from Mike Finn.
So long story short, so I hung with him. Then I had a project due for class, say like the next week. So I got Mike's number and I was like,
okay,
dude, can I shoot you for my project for school? You know, it's a portraiture thing. He goes, I just bought a motorcycle and I just got my whole chest tattooed. I was like, great. This is great. Like, I love this. He goes, come shoot me on my motorcycle. I was like, cool, great, I'll do it. So I find this location. I'm like, all right, we're gonna do it here. I do this full photo shoot for him, and then I go back to his apartment, and he takes off his shirt, and he's fully tattooed, and I'm like, dude, like, I need to take pictures of you right now. So I have all these pictures of him, like on a motorcycle and all stuff, and then we formed a relationship.
Can you please provide those to me?
I
at
have
some
them,
point
and it's
somewhere?
funny because we talk about it all the time. He's like, you still got those? I'm like, yeah, I still have them.
Those might need to make it on the internet.
They're incredible. They're somewhere on the internet. But so yeah, then we just became like really good friends. I was still working at school and like, you know, trying to graduate this 2-year program. And Mike and I got really close. We'd get coffee all the time. But then he'd go on the road and I'm like, damn, like I just not saying I lost a friend, but like, man, that's cool. Like, I'm like jealous. Like, he can just do that and like have a home life and then go on the road and whatever. So I forgot why he pitched the idea of me coming out with Mayday Parade. And he was like, yeah, you should come on like this 2-week tour. He was like, I'll write your professors I
can't even imagine a note from Mike Finn.
So he literally wrote this whole thing.
Like a real world experience. I'm going to give Thomas real world experience.
Exactly. And it's cool because, you know, when I went back to school after that 2-week run, I delivered some of my favorite pictures to this day, to be completely honest. And I was like, man, like, that was amazing. That was real life. And my professors were very happy with it. They were like, that's really cool that you did that.
Yeah, I mean, I think if at that point, if you had somebody that cared enough for what you're doing and then
it wasn't really like a question. It wasn't like, it was more of like, hey, I'm going to do this because it's involving school. I'm going to be working, and this is going towards my career.
Right.
So there was no way that they were going to say no.
What you wanted to do with photography.
Exactly.
You didn't want to be a studio or portrait.
No, exactly. And it was really cool. And I was the first person in my class to do, you know, something outside of school to like, you know, follow up in my career, because it was a very, how would you say it? Like the school, it was like a career driven, like they would like help you get jobs and stuff like that.
Sure.
And, like job leads and this and that. But the fact that I did it
on your own
myself, was
through your own connections.
Like they were like, what is happening?
I mean, that's sort of like that's your first lesson in touring is like, you got to keep working. You have to find the work yourself.
For sure. I mean, still to this day, you know,
I feel like I did sort of talk about this with Mike, but like there is no Monster or Indeed or, you know,
there's not. I mean, there's like
world.
nomads, but like, you know, I think a lot of it and the way to get jobs is just like being friends with people and, you know, kind of like showing who you really are and like, you know, working hard.
Right. Well, and I mean, you can still have a portfolio, which is the nice part about what you do. And then it's still, and I discussed this a little bit with Mike when I talked to him, but it's, you know, his whole thing is work first, friends later. But I think the best experiences I've ever had on the road were, the vibe has to be right, because you could be the best monitor engineer, front of house audio engineer, guitar tech, but if your attitude isn't great,
for sure,
you know, and I think at that level of Mayday Parade, so one bus, one trailer for the most part, everybody sort of needs to be a cohesive unit, or, you know, it's.
I mean, you got to think you're waking up to these people that you've never met, especially with me. when it comes down
12
to
inches away from them most of the time.
And the way that I kind of, what I always tell people, it's like, for me and my job, I'm shoving a camera in these people's faces at any time of the day. Like, that's why they hire me. And for them to not feel comfortable with me is like, that's terrible. That's a terrible feeling.
So
you know what I mean?
Let's delve into that a little bit too, because for everybody else on the road, they sort of go into their own world. So if you are the tour manager, if you're a guitar tech, if you're a stage tech, backline tech, doing merchandise, you get off the bus or out of the van or whatever, and you go into your world. But your profession is access, is having access and having trust and having. Your goal is to get the most intimate or quality version of that because you're being invited in. To the boss. Yeah. Like the biggest deal of and so I feel like a lot more of the time, like the people documenting it, whether it be by video or photo, are usually even just tighter with that crowd because there needs to be that level of infiltration, for lack of a better word, because so it seems real and it seems sincere. And so what in that case, so you went out with Mayday Parade for a couple weeks. How long did it take for that kind of wall to come down where they felt comfortable with you having you in? I would say, like, especially when I was that young, it took them, because I think I was their first photographer ever. This wasn't a thing back then. Right. Well, a first photographer that's going to go be actually embedded in their camp. Exactly. Yeah. So it did take, I would say, after that 2 weeks is when they were like, no, he's cool. And then I went back out with him. Right. But the first couple weeks, I feel like, I feel like for every artist, it's very hard for you to let someone in that fast. Whether it's your personal life or like what you do on a daily basis, and just having someone shoot everything is. Sometimes it's like, damn, like put the camera down. You know what I mean? Because it's like, whatever you're doing, whether someone's around or they're doing something. Or like, hey, we're just going to get coffee, and you're like, hey, no, Thomas, just come get coffee with us. Yeah, exactly, exactly. But but I feel like you're the eyes that the fans are looking for. Yeah, I think nowadays it's I think that fans want to be so involved that they want the everyday pictures. They want to see their favorite celebrities or musicians be normal people. Right. And I feel like that's what really connects the fans with, the artists to an insane level that we've never had before. Yeah. And granted, most artists these days are giving those glimpses in their own social media. 100%, but what you do for a living is now providing that color and giving it a way more vivid picture, for a lack of better term, but vivid experience to that the fan and to people that are that enjoy the artist, the musician, that creative person. What have you seen? I guess I'm going to just shift to this. So since you had that first experience, and we'll come back to and kind of move on. But so since, let's say 2011-ish, how drastic has all that changed? Because now you do see like every type of genre, they want that person kind of embedded in their camp to get those. Like they can only cover so much with their phone, right? And they're also going on stage. They have a microphone in their hand or their gear on. So there needs to be that secondary person that's documenting always those interesting interactions. There's a guest out, or that normal life. Their kids are there, their family's there. So like, what have you seen change in terms of maybe work picking up in general, or like the like what people are looking for when you get hired on now versus even 5 years ago? I think that it's really interesting. It depends on who I work with. Like I think Dillon is very documentary heavy, just like random candids and stuff like that. Whereas when I do Sean, he's very portrait heavy, like very posed, very like not fake, but he's very, not the word perfect, but he's very. But he wants you to get the as much. He doesn't want it to be a quick snap. He wants you to get the full picture of everything that's going on with him, around him in that moment. Exactly. Like but I could appreciate that. It's two different styles. He wants to be stoic in the photo and get like a very cool. Yeah. Whereas Dylan's just like take pictures, whatever, like walking around and doing. And like I do that with Sean and some other artists too, but. It's definitely way two different styles, and I think that everyone just kind of, I think for the artists as well, they have an aesthetic too, and I feel like if they kind of go off the beaten path a little bit, maybe their following will not like it, or maybe they see something on social media that like
that I don't.
Sure.
I'm not too sure, you know.
But I'm just saying too, like you're then a part of that collaborative creative process now because
sure.
you're it either needs to be your vision or a combination
Exactly.
of you need to get what they want.
Well, I mean, I feel like I've been working with some of these people long enough, like Sean for 3 years, Dillon for about a year now, that I know what they're gonna like and what they're gonna post.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes I'm like, man, I'm not even gonna take this picture because I know you're not gonna like it, you know. So that's where you kind of like once you're living with these people, literally living with them, like you get to know them just like anyone else, you know, and you get to, I know some spots that I'm like, you're gonna want me to edit that, you know what I mean? Yeah. It's like without even asking me, I know you're gonna want me to, fix your hair or like something like that, you know. So you just learn people throughout time, and I think everyone's different. And I think I'm still learning newer people. Because I just worked with a couple new people in the last like 2 months or so.
Can you say who that is, or do you know?
Yeah, I shot with Camila Cabello for a little bit.
Yeah,
well, like a couple days, and that's
a high profile thing.
Yeah,
that you got to be very delicate with that.
And for me, it was the first female artist I've ever shot.
Wow.
And yeah, it was really interesting. I was super nervous about it. I was like, man, like I don't even know how to pose her.
Right. Well, yeah. And especially in this day and age with anything, you don't want to be inappropriate. You don't want to ask for something that could be construed that way in some way.
Yeah. Like I was so nervous. I was like sweating. But she was so fun. She was like, yeah, let's go shoot. I was like, tight. Like that's awesome.
I mean, I imagine she's been around it now, kind of coming out of a girl group and being kind of told all the time how to pose. That if you were maybe even giving her some artistic freedom and license in that, she was probably pretty excited about that too.
But like even down to her, compared to like Dillon and Sean, it's way, way different shooting because those are 3 different genres.
Of course.
3 different people.
Yeah.
Like
3 different age brackets, very different, distinct age brackets too, for real.
So, but I like that. It's kind of like, I don't know. It's really interesting though. I love it. It keeps me on my toes. It keeps me like, motivated to like keep shooting like stuff, different stuff and all that stuff.
And then, all right, let's just jump back to, so now you went out with Mayday Parade. Did you finished school somewhere in that timeline?
I did Mayday Parade for like, say, 3 years.
Right. So starting in 2011 and then you went.
2011 to like 2014.
Okay.
We did a full book, which was about 200 pages, which is awesome. I did a documentary for them. And what else did we do?
And so with the book process, was that, I mean, how, because that's another skill, is trying to kind of compile. And then was that a big collaborative effort, or was that a lot of them? You just submitted them all the photos and they picked through?
So I think the idea was doing a book because we had so much stuff going on, from 2011 to 2014. And even stuff, because the book is based on kind of the whole band up until that point. So they had like iPhone pictures and stuff, and we put some of that stuff in. So it's a pretty much full story up until that point. But just the evolution of the band and like what they look like and like, and that's like when I was with Mayday Parade, and even like I've only been with Dillon for a year now, but just the way that people change and like what they look like and like, what we do and you're documenting it, you can see it. Like seriously, you can be like, man, like he cut his hair, like, or like he lost like say like 10 pounds or whatever. Like that's cool to me to see progress, and even down to shows. Like I remember shooting some shows in 2011. Mm-hmm. There's 100 people there, and then 4 years later, it's the same exact city, and there's 2,500 people there. You know, so like that's got to be,
and that's got to be exciting because you're the one behind. Like the band's going through it, and they might be experiencing it, but you have documented proof of that. So that's
the best part.
Exciting.
I love seeing like progression, and that was like one thing that I like really strive on is like progression, whether it's from myself or just an artist in general. I love seeing that. So long story short, I was just telling you about Josiah. Right. My best friend, Josiah Van Dien, she was with Shawn Mendes. I'll never forget the day he called me. He's like, dude, I got asked to do Shawn Mendes. I was like, isn't he like 16? He was like, yeah, he's 16, or he's like 17. I was like, dude, that's tight. Do it. Like, so he's been with Shawn now. Shawn's 21 now.
Right.
And he's seeing this kid grow, and he's documenting.
So he's truly documented.
Dude, I'm so jealous. Like that's probably the coolest. That kid's young. Or he was young.
Right.
And to see that growth.
I know what you're saying with like you got to do it because like if you can get in and you trust you and you can stay in, you'll have this. Oh my God, you'll have this like lifeline. Yeah, or lifelong.
And like obviously he's like a massive deal and he's a great artist and everything. But that's how I looked at it when he told me about it, and I was like, dude, like that's that's awesome. Like that you're going to be documenting this kid's life for X amount of years, you know?
Sure.
So I think that's like a beautiful thing.
Okay, so then the transition from let's say 2014 now, and then what I imagine now your work is out there.
Oh yeah.
So other people might be interested. What came next in terms of I know the Mayday parade guys. That'll always be family. Those guys are your family.
Just had lunch with Alex actually.
Cool. Oh yeah, we're in Nashville. Yeah. Again, I'm going to say it. He's a future guest. I hope. I feel like he would be a great person to chat with.
He's so intelligent. He might outsmart anyone.
I feel that way a lot when I see him and we chat here in town. But I love him because he's super low key. But another person. He was one of the first. That band is one of the first bands I ever was on a tour with. Yep. So it's 2009 now, or 2019, which is insane. And I met those kids in 2007. So it's been that many years.
That's insane. So I
that has to be kind of hard, that transition of like, hey, I'm going to go do something else.
Yeah, it was hard, but I think that I kind of hit a wall where I didn't really know what to do artistically, because we had just done the book. They were doing another album. We did a documentary in the studio, and I was just like, man, like I don't know what else to do. Like, their branding is a little dark, because I was shooting very like emotional pictures. I was like, some of my favorite pictures ever is like, Derek like wiping his eyes or like he's like tearing up. I have another picture of Derek calling his daughter like for the first time ever. We're like in Australia. It's like super emotional pictures that I absolutely love. But I was like, man, I kind of want to go into like a different route, maybe like a more fun route or something. And, I was doing stuff for, Glamour Kills, which is a clothing company years ago, shooting for them. I was shooting for like magazines because, the band obviously was very large or still is pretty big band.
Yeah.
And they were anything that they needed content wise, since I was so close with them and they trusted me, they were like, we want Tom to do it. Like whether it's, magazine work, anything.
And that says, that says a lot to you and as a human and your character and your loyalty.
I think a lot of it is too is like the brand of it. It's like, well, we don't want this random dude who doesn't get the band, who doesn't know our aesthetic and everything to just come in and kind of mess up this photo shoot.
Sure.
So then that's where like we were collabing a lot. We did it was like a 4 or 5 page spread in AP magazine. And this is like one of the most randomest things ever. But I was like, man, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? And Alex actually was like, dude, we should get a projector. I was like, a projector? Like, what do you mean a projector? He's like, we should get a projector and like put something on the projector and hit us with the image and you should shoot it. And I was like, that's amazing. Like,
cool.
So like that's like the cool. So we put like these really dark like trees on them and it's like casting shadows like all over all over them as like a band, as like a promo. It's like, I was like, damn, like that's a genius idea. Like this is amazing. So yeah, they just trust me with like a lot of stuff and we would collab like really easily and, they're all artists in themselves. But that's the best part, I think, about working for an artist. You can just sit down with them and be like, hey, so what should we do?
Yeah.
Whether it's like.
Well, and the fact that on the flip side, they'll throw an idea out and then they trust your vision to fulfill what they're ultimately trying to get out of it.
And like quality too. Like they know that they're going to get the quality out of it too. But, some people will come in and a lot of times like magazines and stuff like that, they'll just hire people and the magazine won't let them have the band have a say. And it's like, well, damn.
Have you been on that side now too? Can you speak to that a little bit? Where you've been brought in to do
I have
a magazine shoot, and then you feel like you might not even be in total
control.
And
I'm like, why are we doing
We don't need to name drop, but like,
I definitely have.
Like, does that side of it not really factor into your artistic, creative side more? Or is that just?
I think a lot of the times when I have done stuff like that. I was pretty bummed on the outcome.
Okay,
because they hit you with. Like hey, you have to do this a certain way. And it's like, well, man, like then any photographer can do this.
Sure.
You know what I mean? It's like, well, you can just hire anyone. If you're going to hire me for a reason, you're going to hire me for
your
like,
vision.
Exactly.
What they've seen of your work
already.
Yeah,
which is fine. But that's why some of the magazine work, I just will pass up now. I'm like, man. I mean, sometimes it's cool though. Like if they're going to give me a full creative direction, great, I'll do it.
Yeah.
But if you're going to tell me how to shoot it, and all that stuff, like a formula, like it depends,
right? And then sort of go back to touring. The touring side, like you feel like you have more of a creative input into. Like once you get to know the artist enough that there's actually trust where it's not like being cold called for something.
For sure.
You're going to keep continuing on with what you've started. So then. again, out of Mayday, what was the transition like? Where so
it was just cool because like then social media started picking up, and I'll get to everything in a second, but I think that they really helped me put my name out there. Just because I think a lot of people were like, man, like Mayday Parade's like aesthetic, it's so cool right now. It's like dark, it fits their band, like whoever's doing it's great. So then I started getting hit up by a couple other people, and at that point I've been on the road for say 3 years, just meeting people, hanging out, going to get lunch, going to get drinks, like other bands on the tour, blah blah, whatever. Like how it is.
Yeah, it's a great networking space.
It's the if you're willing to hang out and have a good time, you're networking. Like and that's how I eventually moved on, and I kind of got out of touring for like I would say 6 months. I did RL Grime, which is a DJ, and then I was trying to get into like pop a little bit, and I did some like another act, and then I was like, man, I just want to like get back on the road. So then I heard that All Time Low was looking for somebody to do their documentary. I ended up going back into that because that was kind of the route I was going for. I was like, man, like this is gonna be really fun.
Sure,
it's gonna be a way different brand than Mayday Parade. Like All Time Low is that poppy band,
right? Similar but different.
Yeah. Like they like to go out and they'll document everything just like Mayday and stuff. So then we went into that. Went with them for like 3 years, and I think that they really like, since their following is so big, I think that they're the ones who really, really, really like push it over the edge and put my name out there. Because they were tagging me and everything, and they're like such a big social media band, like massive social media band.
In the interest of that, I'll ask, because I feel like it's a very modern day social media conundrum. What's your take on that? Like, are you just appreciative when you get tagged, or made mention of? In that case, they're hiring you specifically, because I've noticed that some artists, right, they'll bring someone out and then they don't tag them and everything, but I think the fans know, like, oh, so and so is out, so like they feel like they don't, because they're already paying for the piece or paying the person for their time or for like what's your like honest take? Like, you don't need to.
I'm okay with not getting tagged. I do appreciate people who follow my work for my work and not for who I shoot for. And I think this is probably a very common conversation between a lot of photographers. Like, just don't bring up Josiah Agame. He's literally my best friend. He's like, dude, I'm about to post this picture of this band, but like no one's gonna appreciate it. It's such a good picture, but no one's gonna care because it's not Sean. And which sometimes will bum me out, and I'm like, man, like I wish people followed my work for my work rather than who I'm shooting for. So that's why sometimes I'm not mad about if they don't tag me or not. But yeah, sometimes it's cool.
Do you also in that try to what you post online, try to keep it well-rounded and eclectic, so that you don't get pigeonholed into one 100%. Artist, one vision.
The way that I kind of go about things on my social media is I also try not to get pinpointed very hard on who I'm with. Like, I've been with Dillon for the last year, but I've only posted, say, like 8 pictures of him.
Sure.
And so I'm not trying to get, I'm also just trying to, be a little more diverse.
To keep it diverse.
And I think that's really hard with touring not as a photographer, like with a tour manager or something. It's like, how do you present yourself as like you can do multiple acts, not like multiple acts, but how can you go from a DJ to like a hip-hop artist or like something else, to say that you can do everything rather than like a resume,
right?
Whereas I feel like I'm grateful to just put out my portfolio and be like, hey, well, I can do this and that. So that's what I try to do, is make it seem like I'm more well-rounded.
Well, right, which is great, because if you can do live photos and then portrait style backstage, but then also true like photo shoot for sure, full level.
I think that's the most important thing, like as a touring photographer and working with musicians, and I tell a lot of people this. They're like, well, how do you do that? And it's like, you just gotta just keep shooting different people. Don't get pinholed. Because that's the worst feeling in like the world. It's like, man, well, like, now I can't get out. It's like, now I can't get out of like a DJ world or like hip hop world. It's like, because everyone wants to do different stuff. Like, it's like, I'm sure with you too. It's like, you want to work with different acts and different levels and this and that. It's like, we all have that motivation to do it.
Sure. So I kind of, at one point I had put sort of an age limit on it for me, kind of in my world, where it was, hey, if I haven't made it to this level by the time I probably said 30 when I was in my 20s.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
I didn't really want to be sleeping in a van anymore. Sure. It's a great experience to start out and learn the roles and feel a part of something, but it kind of needed to move on, or it didn't.
Yeah.
I think everybody by the time they hit their late 20s, 30s, 40s, like you want to, if you're doing something and you've picked a career path, you want to be comfortable in it.
Yeah, I think that a lot of it comes down to just like saying that there's a lot more out there, you know. And like, yeah, you might be having the best time of your life with like your friends and like, you know, this is your family at that point.
Yeah.
You know, but there's so many different things going on. Like even with learning, like I love learning, especially when I'm working with newer artists and I don't know them. That's a learning process for me. And like if you're going to work for a new artist, that's a whole nother learning process. It's like why do people stop learning? Like, or why do they want to stop?
Right.
Or like they just get comfortable, you know, like
yeah.
I'm one of those dudes who I'm like, man, if I'm comfortable, like I'm not doing my best work.
Well, and I guess to go down that road real quick from a technical aspect, do you feel like it's constant? Because gear, I feel like in this day and age is constantly changing. And then, but do your methods or your like how you're shooting change? You know, and what?
Luckily, like on the road, I think that for photographers, it's a little bit easier because of production and stuff like that, and like kind of what we do is always changing.
Right.
So I feel like things kind of change a little bit more for us. But as for gear, like I just brought out a bunch of new stuff on this tour.
Right.
And I'll try to rent stuff, you know, if it's like bigger stuff. And like I was just in the studio with another female artist in the last couple weeks, and I tried to shoot all film on like a 4x5 that I got from my buddy Nick. And I wasn't really happy with the pictures, but I still tried it.
Sure.
And I was like, man, like this would be really cool if I just shot all film. So I shot, I think it was like 2 rolls, and I didn't post anything.
Do you just think
trying new stuff?
Yeah, well, but do you think too, kind of our generation, as far as tools of the trade and the arsenal, like you can keep shooting till you're happy versus a film. You know, film you either got it or you didn't.
I had no clue if I got anything. You know what I mean? Yeah. But I had my digital as well. I had my camera. But I was really like, that was my goal. You know, I feel like a lot of times, like even for this tour that we're about to go on, I'm like, what's my goal? And like, what do I want to shoot? And, you know, how are we going to present it to like his fans and all that stuff? But yeah, when I went into the studio and I had my film cameras, I was like, damn, like this is my goal right now.
Yeah, I mean, hey, but
that's
a great way to put it, and just advice for people out there. Like you can still have a goal, a personal goal. Like, you know, you can have a goal for the aesthetic of the band, but then you can be working on something on the side to kind of enhance your abilities as a photographer, an artist, or a videographer. In the case of your world, like what else are you doing on the side? That could be unique, and you know you're not even maybe telling the artist about it, but you're doing it to see if you can get a result that is something worthwhile. So that's cool.
I try to keep it fresh and new.
And so right now, just in case there's people listening that are doing what you're doing or interested and trying to learn more, what are you like? Give us your rig real quick. Like
right now, I have a 5D Mark IV, 24-70. 20 millimeter Sigma Art, 50 millimeter Sigma Art.
And those are all lenses for those people not. Yeah. So the camera body was the Canon, and then all these other things are lenses.
I run very, very light, I'll be honest with you.
Well, yeah, when you're traveling so much, I imagine you don't want to lug too much gear with you.
No. But this tour I kind of brought a little more out. But I usually run with like 3 prime lenses, which the prime means no zoom. I think that those are like the sharpest ones, and I also like moving. Like for when I need to get a shot, I like to move closer.
Sure.
Rather than just like doing a zoom. It's like, man, I'm not really like a big zoom guy. But I've been trying a lot of the last say 3 or 4 days of rehearsals, I've only been shooting on a zoom lens, which I haven't done. Oh my God, years.
So it's sort of relearning the process.
And it's funny because I'm literally so far away and I'm like, man, I can get the shot right now. Zoom. And whereas like, you know, if I didn't bring that lens or a couple different lenses on the road, like I would have to like walk up to the subject and stuff.
Sure. But I mean, but then that's another way to enhance that. And maybe a tool you need to keep in your bag for future so you can get some of those shots that maybe you normally wouldn't be able to get.
And it's just something new, like, you know, just keeping.
Do you travel with more than one camera body these days, or
this tour I do. I have a Mark III as well, and
so that's like secondary, sort of like your secondary gun. And if you're,
or if like say they need like a video or something, and it's like, oh, well, I could just have my homie come out and like just use this camera.
Got it.
So, or if like I have to get a shot at front of house or something, I really want to try rigging a camera at front of house and then wirelessly triggering it. So for wherever I am in the venue, I always have like a front of house shot.
Yeah. So I feel like that's done a lot in sports.
It is,
like
it
if you're actually the arena photographer, like you'll be walking around and shooting, but then they have a permanent camera somewhere as well, right?
Yeah, I'm for sure gonna do it for Coachella this year.
Cool.
For sure. Like, because that festival, oh my God, to get to front of house is the nightmare.
Yeah.
It's a nightmare, especially for a DJ or that's a hard set. Oh my God, it's terrible.
Yeah.
Terrible. So yeah, that's another thing that like that's like my goal is to be like, hey, I want to wirelessly trigger this, so I can have literally 2 of the same shots at different angles at the same exact time.
That's awesome.
Which is interesting, And I only know one person who's ever done it. Well, it's not hard, but
right.
It's just
but timing it out and having it be focused right and having I'm sure there's a lot to it. Okay, so out with All Time Low for a little while.
Yep,
was that years as well? A few years.
2 years.
2 years.
2 years. Yeah. And then I was supposed to go out with another artist. All Time Low obviously blew me up. I did everything. Did the documentary. We had like a party for the DVD and everything. It was amazing. And then I was like, man, so like I did this for them. That's kind of why I was hired. And I was doing stills on the side. And I was like, man, like what am I about to do? Like I just did two rock bands.
Sure.
Like I'm like back what I was saying about being pigeonholed. I was like, man, I don't want to shoot like another rock band. So I got offered to do another artist. There's a rock band and kind of burned a bridge, sadly, and I won't say the name. But I had flights to go on this tour, and it was a big summer tour and everything, and I was supposed to leave in like 4 days. But I get a call, and it's like, hey, can you do Big Sean on this Rihanna tour? And I was like, fuck. Like, this is exactly.
That was a transition moment.
Like, this is where I have to burn a bridge in rock and do something that's out of my comfort zone to completely put myself in like this weird position and like try something out. And I was like, even if it's for one tour, I'll do it. So that was obviously with Sean. I was over in Europe for 3 months on the Rihanna tour.
Wow.
And I thought it was going to be like a one and done situation, but then he ended up hiring me for like the next like 3 years or whatever it's been.
And so in your case, how does that come down? Is that a direct like Sean himself? Like I guess
it was his creative director because he had seen my work.
Right.
And I think at a certain level, there's creative directors that are on Instagram all the time.
Right.
And this is what I was kind of saying about All Time Low. Like his name is Mike Carson, and he does right now he's working on like Travis Scott show and like so much stuff, and he's incredible. But he found me through God knows who. Like,
but then I'm saying too, in a continuation point, is that at the request of him that you come back and continue, or did Sean like it?
Yeah.
Once you're comfortable with them, it's
for sure.
Like, has it been more of the artist literally being like, you got to keep coming because
he kind of knew like the first when the tour was over. They had some more shows and they had some like other, because he does a lot of personal stuff as well. Mm-hmm. Like, he has like a charity and all that stuff. But he was like, man, I really like that kid. Like, he's cool. He fits in. Like, he's a little different, but like, what are you going to do?
Right.
So yeah, I was like the nerdy, like white kid who just like made bad jokes all the time and like had my camera, but like they love the camera. They love to be in front of the camera. So, but yeah, I stuck with them for a little bit. And then, Sean was always, still to this day, is like, where's Thomas at? Like, why is he not here? Like, and his assistant will call me like, Sean's a little upset that you're not here. And I'm like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, I'm busy. Like, but yeah, he's always asking. He's,
and so
very comfortable
at that point, making that transition, because, I feel like in no way I'm saying this like against a band like Mayday Parade or All Time Low, but that's got to be the highest profile touring thing you had done at that point.
At that point,
you're out with somebody like a Big Sean, and then you're on Rihanna's tour.
Yeah,
so,
we were going like bowling with Rihanna, and I was like, what am I? Like, I was just with All Time Low. Like, what just happened?
Was there at that level some things that were maybe more off limits compared? Now you were embedded in with two bands that are close to your age and a little bit more family oriented. Mm-hmm. Now you're on this big tour.
It was
all
a stadium
around.
Tour, yeah.
Right.
So yeah. I mean, obviously there's restrictions. Like, dude, I'm a dude with a camera. And
right.
I know it sounds like a lot of people be like, well, what do you mean? Like, but a person with a camera can probably ruin someone's life. Like, I know that
especially
sounds
in this
crazy,
day and age,
but nowadays it's like, man, and not saying any of these people do this stuff, but like, if say you have a girlfriend or like whatever, and whatever's happening, like that's a prime example of put the camera down. But I mean, I've never been put in a situation like that ever, which is good. But even times where like people are walking in hallways and it's like, I know to put my camera down. Like, this is not my artist. It's like, obviously Rihanna's walking through the hallways. Like, I'm not trying to be that guy to get yelled at and be like, hey, this is clearly not your artist. Don't shoot her. It's like, it's just common courtesy. You learn that. I feel like people learn stuff the hard way.
Right.
And I definitely did learn that the hard way because I shot her show with a very long lens, and I think her security guard is the one who grabbed my camera and was like, this was like the second or third day of the tour.
Right.
So, I learned the hard way. But after that, I was like, okay, I'm not bringing my camera around.
Right.
Like her camp at all.
I think so. That would be something I would love. I mean, you just did talk about it, but I think that's interesting to like add on to your aspect. So when you are on the inside and you're embedded and everybody's happy, but then when you're involved in a bigger thing, like what can you offer to anybody who hopefully is listening to this as far as that world, like when to think twice on courtesy and that it's not your shot if it's not your artist. And because I've been on the other side, on the production team side, where same sort of thing, and I dealt with that a little bit this summer. We had a videographer out with one of the opening acts, and he was like on our side stage, so the headliner side stage, and I felt terrible for reacting the way I did, but I was just like, you gotta go, man. Like, you're out of here.
I think a lot has to come down to like even what these people look like for when you're so involved with an artist, they're approving these pictures and they're the ones going through it. But if you have the access and say like we're backstage or whatever, and I'm taking these pictures, no one knows what I'm going to do with them.
Right.
And whether they look good or not. Like if the artist looks good, cool, whatever. But if they look terrible, like I can still post it. You know what I mean? Right. And like no one's going to stop me.
Sure.
And that's a terrifying thing, and I think that's like a completely off limits situation because they're not approving it. And they're humans too. It's like, and I don't care if I'm a celebrity or not, but like I look terrible in that picture. Don't post that. And that's a real life thing,
But also, so in that scenario where you said the security came up to you, did you then maybe like is maybe a smart move to like go introduce yourself around just so people are familiar?
So that's what
with,
I did. Yeah,
that's what you did. Then you went around and kind of.
Well, the next day I had I talked to I think I talked to my tour manager, and it was a girl at the time. Her name was Terry, and I was like, Terry, like I kind of fucked up. Like I was shooting the show, and she was like, no, like you can't be doing that. And she was like, go apologize tomorrow to the security and introduce yourself. And I was like, perfect, it's great. So I went there to production office or security room. I was like, hey guys, like I'm really sorry, like I'm with Sean, but like that won't happen again. And they're like, dude, like it's all good, man. They're super cool. Like once you're in, they were like, dude, no problem, man. And then they would see me around all the time. And it's funny because I ended up getting close with a couple of them. And everyone in our camp was like, how do you know them? Like I'm like, but it's cool. It's cool how that works because then they give you that respect of apologizing and stuff like that. And then
and then I imagine if you went and asked to shoot, they would get you credentialed to shoot. Yeah. So I think if it's
you just go about it the right way,
right,
then it's fine. Yeah. But the fact that I was just in the crowd like shooting and she was on this like big like platform thing, I was like, oh, that's great. Like, yeah, terrible. But it ended up being a great situation.
A great life lesson if you're going to be a creative in the industry is the whole like shoot first, ask for forgiveness later doesn't always work.
Yeah,
it could get you in more trouble. So kind of knowing what you're walking into and being conscious of that, and especially in major cities, I know it's even harder. Just
New York and all that stuff. It's like. Yeah, well, you were telling that story
Massachusetts,
recently.
So it's just, and especially at a place like Madison Square Garden, and I don't think people realize they own other venues in New York, and there's unions and not necessarily laws, but they have their own internal way that they do the things so that they make money if you use it or 100%. You get in trouble or you get told to take it down.
Well, I think that's another thing too about, if you're shooting something that's not like your artist or something, I think it's like, man, I'm not trying to make money off of this, but you could sell your stuff, and that's why a lot of these people, don't want people like us around or, all that stuff. But
yeah. And then, all right, so you got to go on that tour with Big Sean, and it was that was it was awesome. With someone like a Rihanna headlining, that's got to be a big experience.
Yeah, it was fun. It was, it definitely opened my eyes to like a stadium level. We did like Wembley Stadium.
Wow.
Dude, it was insane. And, we did all Europe, UK, everything, all stadiums, crazy. It definitely taught me a way of touring that, dude, there was like 20 buses, like 25 buses, 50 trucks, whatever it was, and it was very eye opening. Like I literally took a scooter everywhere, like in the stadium. That's how big it was. But down to like the little things, like I never knew there was like a wardrobe person. Sorry, not a wardrobe person, but like a dressing room person.
Right.
'Cause every day I'd be like, man, our dressing room looks the same. Like, what is going on? And everyone's like, oh yeah, they have a truck for that. I'm like, they have a truck for couches and like lamps.
I remember the first time I saw something like that too, and
I was mind blown.
Couldn't believe that that's just part of the budget. But I can understand at an artist at that level that you want it to be as comfortable as possible.
Yeah, because you ever walk into these blank rooms, it's like,
so I mean, for people that are listening out there, like if you're doing a show at your local arena, whatever town you're in, and you go to see, a Justin Timberlake, a Rihanna, a Big Sean, an artist at that level, like you're walking into like the away locker room of whatever team
That's
plays
exactly
there,
what it is.
NHL or NBA or whoever, and so it's. Think classic classroom style. It's just
literally
brick walls, cement walls.
Yeah.
And lockers potentially. And so a lot of the time locally they might put pipe and drape up. So just black pipe and drape. And that just to like make it homey, they'll put some lamps and couches in. But then when you get on big tours, the first time I ever saw it,
dude, I love it.
Being backstage was on Justin Timberlake. Like I was just a local person and they were I was the runner, but I was doing sort of day PA stuff too. And all of a sudden the dressing room ladies came into that office and they're like, hey, we just need a hand. And the person that was like in charge of me that day was like, please go help them.
Yeah, for sure.
And I got to see them just running around and trying to like, they had on a tour that level, like Timberlake also has like a family room where like he keeps all his guests. So, and they make it, they dress it, like they fully dress it. There's entertainment in it. There's TVs, there's music, there's lights. Like they had LED light. So it's a thing where I think they're just trying to make it as homey as possible.
Sure. Yeah. Like you don't want, an artist to, even the crew, the crew's out there working from say like 5 a.m.
to 2 a.m.
Yeah, literally. And it's like the last thing they want to do is just go in a room
with bright fluorescent bulbs on.
Yeah, exactly. So like overhead lights. They want, a lot of the times like candles lit and, nice lamps, very dim lighting. Like, so somebody take a nap in there if they want to. Like, I love that. And that was the first time I ever saw that. I was like, man, this is cool.
Yeah. Where do you, in terms of that, because I just thought of this, what are some of the craziest places you've ever found yourself like working from? Like, because you're, I know a lot of the time people like they know you took photos, and I think in this day and age they want things instantly. Sometimes I imagine you get a lot of requests like, we need you to turn this around, at least one or two things, maybe around quick. Give me like a craziest place you've ever found yourself like working from your computer, editing photos. I'll tell you this about where I've probably the coolest place I've ever shot from, like literally like working. So we were on an arena tour with All Time Low. It was Glasgow 2015, and it was Adam Elmachias and myself. We were both shooting, and he woke up one morning at say like 7 a.m. or 5 a.m. or whatever it was when they were rigging, all the all the truss and everything. He wakes me up. He's like, dude, come with me right now. I'm like, what do you want, dude? It's like 7 a.m. It's like 8 a.m., whatever it is at this point. So he takes me up, because, if you ever look above these arenas, they have like crazy catwalks. For all the, the spotlights and stuff like that. Couldn't pay me.
He's like, dude, he's like, we're going up there during the show. I was like, you're a nutcase, but I'll do it. So we had to like sign all these paperwork and like get harnesses and hard hats. So it's mid-show. He's like, all right, we're going to go up there for the pyro. I was like, okay, we have, say, 3 songs. He's like, we have to go now because it's going to take us about 20 minutes to get up there. I was like, 20 minutes? Okay, sure, let's go. So me and Adam are like running through the arena. He's like, all right, we have 2 songs now. We got to go. We're wearing like these harnesses and like hard hats and like have all our camera stuff. And we go up there and we got the shot.
Was there, in that case, was there like stairs up or did you have to actually climb ladders?
We had to take a ladder.
Yep.
Or it was multiple ladders.
Right.
And so it was created where like, so you look down and you can literally drop pennies, like a crate.
Yeah.
Like in like a New York City, like sidewalk crate situation. Yeah. And dude, I'd never been that scared. I was like, Adam, this is terrible. Like, what are we doing? He's like, dude, this is so great. I'm like, all right, sure. So yeah, that was probably like, that also opened my eyes of like getting different angles and like really getting the access in the venue from people who can help you out.
Sure.
And that was something that he taught me.
Right, is to kind of talk with the local people and play nice and ask. And
it's like, yeah, man, they would love to help you out because people go up there all the time, for spotlights and beams or, whatever. It's like, why not get a cool picture? Because I'm sure not a lot of people have that access. And if we have that access, why not?
Right.
So I did that a couple times after he had taught me that. And it's great, man. Like he definitely opened my eyes on, I would say, experiencing the entire arena or like venue as a whole, rather than just the photo pit and like front of house and like on the stage, because there's so much there's so many different angles.
Right, because if you get that one unique shot, that's gonna make its rounds on the internet versus the standard.
Exactly. And there's gonna be a lot of questions like, well, how did he do that?
Mm-hmm.
So that you know, obviously Adam is like a mentor to me. He's like a big brother. But that was a cool story. And then I would say probably the craziest place I've ever worked.
Yeah, like worked from like Sunday, like, all right, you got to turn something around, and now you're wherever. Where like, do you have any thoughts on that?
Oh man, I've worked like under stages. I don't know if that's like that cool.
Well, yeah, but there's just you and like I can picture just you and your computer under the stage.
Yeah. No, that's for sure a thing. I don't know. I always have my laptop on me though, for sure. Like just for reasons like that, you know.
Right.
I've definitely worked on like a couple boats. That's really weird.
Okay. See, yeah, but you know,
I'm trying to think. I don't know.
Well,
definitely some weird places though.
Let's just transition back. So then, you were out with Big Sean for a little bit, and then what was the transition? Was Mike Finn involved back in the transition? To
Dillon
obviously. Francis?
Well, yeah. So I mean, I still do some work for Sean here and there, but he's just taking some time off right now. He's probably off. We did this year maybe 3 weeks, but next year he's gonna pick up, and so I was just looking for like something else to do. You know, I was just like. I did hip hop. I was like, do I do another hip hop artist? Like, and Sean's the best. Like, he's not a normal hip hop guy. He's very straightforward, very clean cut. And no offense to any hip hop people, but like, I was like, I don't think it can get better than this. You know, with a dude and a team that is very straightforward. I was like, it's great. So I was like, do I do hip hop again? Like, I don't know. Like, I got a couple like leads, and everyone's like, you should do this, you should do that. I'm like, I don't know. So then that's when Mike hit me up and he was like, yeah, you should do this. You know, it was New Year's Eve. He's like, you're doing anything on New Year's Eve? And this is last year. And I was like, no, but I would love to work. Like, I hate New Year's Eve. Like, what? Like, why do I care? So he's like, yeah, come out with me and Dillon. I was like, cool, perfect, let's do it. And then that's why I met Dillon for the first time. And we instantly hit it off. Like, Dillon is, you've met him, right?
I have. I just have heard everybody's stories. I haven't actually met him in person yet.
He's ridiculously funny and just like, very personal. For the longest time, he didn't know my name, which is pretty funny. And but yeah, we kicked it off, and then we're here now. I love him. He's literally like a big brother to me. Like we talk when we're at home all the time, and he's fun.
That's awesome.
Very personal as well.
Yeah. So. And I mean, do you feel like that was that worked quicker this time? Like he let you in a little bit faster. And I guess it's different too, because like
he did.
I guess with somebody like a Sean and him, it's just one. You know, you're not chasing down or having to chase after so many people.
I think something different with Dillon was that he had a photographer already, and then he went to another job. So I think that he was used to having a camera around him at all times. He's very open to everything.
Sure.
Whereas like when Sean didn't have someone. I was his first photographer. Wow. Yeah, which is really interesting to think about.
But again, that goes back to I feel like people's creative or artists, creative people around them going like, this is a thing now. Like we want to have someone come in because we want a better photo, a better aesthetic. Like you can only get so much out of a phone camera.
Dillon let me in pretty easily. He's great, but that was kind of because. If you look at what we were just talking about, it's like I went from 2 rock bands to a hip hop artist to a DJ, and I think it's not saying I had like a formula to do it at all.
Right.
I would say it was just more timing, and like that was my idea to do something like that, very cohesive and very
break off from the thing you had already done.
And it was just it wasn't hard for me, but I can see where people saying it is really hard.
So Dillon going on tour.
Yep.
Right now, so you're actually gearing up or geared up for that. Do you have any? What's your goal? So you talked about it earlier. Goals, kind of goals of moments or tours. Do you have one for this tour?
Yeah, I do. So what we're doing, and we kind of just started the idea yesterday, was we're gonna. So he owns the lostmymindtour.com domain.
Okay, is that the name of this tour?
Yeah, Lost My Mind. And then there's for a lot of his social media, it's very, for Twitter and Facebook, we'll post like 4 or 5 pictures. And then on Instagram, he'll do like some stories, and then we'll do some like iPhone video stories, and then maybe do like a live post if it's funny or something. But for this tour, I'm pretty focused on like the details of every aspect, because he doesn't really tour. It's not like tour bus touring. It's a lot of flying.
Right.
So I think there's a lot more to capture, because I haven't been on a bus in 2 years, first of all, which is insane. And so what we're doing is doing like full galleries of like all my pictures that will be approved on the website to do more of like an inside look.
Right, because I'm sure, I mean, you just...
everything rather than just what he's going to post.
So even like you were just here for a couple of days doing rehearsals, so I'm sure there'll be a whole gallery of that as well. Which is cool. Like kids,
exactly.
I feel like kids, his fans especially, like they don't get to see that.
No,
when are they ever going to get to see that?
Exactly, they don't. Like there's, I took pictures of Dillon literally at a table, like practicing the set and like, it's like with our whole crew and everything. And like, that's a real behind the scenes look of like, it's not him just like walking around a city. So I'm trying to capture more like detailed oriented, like close ups of things. And I'm trying to shoot very tight objects right now. Because I have like these new lenses that I'm trying out.
Right.
So yeah, I'm just trying to do like more like galleries and trying to make it like a whole rather than just kind of pieces, I guess.
Right. So not a daily piece, but you can get the full, like full version.
Feeling of being on tour. Like, like for example, I'm so, I know this might sound cheesy, but I haven't been on a tour bus in 2 years, but I'm so excited for like, like a movie night and like capturing that of like Dillon just watching a movie on the tour bus or like partying on the tour bus. Like, it's something I haven't captured.
And that's sort of like the vision of what I want to get into with people like on this, because we're still living a life out there and there is a sort of like everydayness, or you're looking for that sometimes. It's harder to find it.
I agree with that.
So that's rad to hear that you're going to do more of like a real inside look. Like it's not just like a photo of the day, but it can be like a complete experience of rundown of the day.
Yeah, it should be like even I took a picture of him eating his food the other day, and I was like, man, like it's so weird that I haven't taken a picture of you like at a rehearsal space.
Right, because you guys are usually just at nightclubs.
Just like nightclubs or just like at hotels and like walking around the cities and stuff like that. So it should be really interesting. Like that's my goal, is to capture, and I do capture a lot when we're away, but I think there's a lot missed because of travel and stuff like that.
But that truly, like sitting down, eating a meal, sharing that information, going through that, like that's real candid. Like that's truly like things that people take for, like
for sure.
And I'm sure that there are plenty of people that want to see that they love the hype, big, loud, fully colorful, explosive photos, but then they also want to see that like he eats dinner like he eats dinner like you eat.
So I mean that was kind of like always my goal, like when I was even starting to tour, was like, man, how can I make these celebrities connect with their fans more? And my idea of it is just to make them look like normal people, right? And like they do normal things. And I think that like really comes across a good amount in my pictures. Like I took this one picture of like Wiz Khalifa not the other day, but like a couple months ago, that I love, and so many people are like, damn, like that's so cool that he's just like,
you caught him in a moment.
Like it's just like a super candid like moment, just like hanging with Sean, just like smoking some weed, but like laughing, like having a good time, you know what I mean? It's like,
right. And it's
so like, cool.
But so again, you've refined and honed your craft into what it is, but it's all about being there too, and being accepted into 100%, having that access to the artist.
Exactly. And that's obviously the hardest part, but just making them seem like normal people, and that like I think people really really connect with that the most.
Cool.
I think so.
All right. Well, now I usually have a couple of questions that I want to ask people that are like, there'll be a few that are kind of running throughout this podcast. So what was for you like a sort of like holy shit moment of your career so far, with like whether it being just you personally, like getting to experience something and shoot something, or like with one of those artists, either or, you can answer it either way, or like what was that like, wow, this thing is bigger, I can't believe I'm here, give us one of those moments.
I would say my favorite is probably like when my parents come out and they kind of put it in perspective, because then they're, even like my brother, like he'll always be like, damn, like this is crazy. Like, because I feel like people take for granted, kind of what we do. And they look at it in like a pinhole, and they'll be like, it's just another day. And it's like, no, man, it's so cool. We're entertaining thousands and thousands of people every single day. And these people, we have to make them have the best night of their lives so that they can remember something as like a memory. And I think my parents and my brother have always, I feel like they always bring that moment back to me, when they like come and visit and like, do all that stuff.
They remind you of that.
They'll always be like, man, like we'll never forget that. Or even when they meet the artists I'm working for, like my parents love meeting you know, like my mom cries every time. She's like, you know, she's met All Time Low, Mayday Parade. Like they've all been to my parents' house before. Like,
right.
You know, and my parents met Sean and like they like had dinner together. Like it's great. They haven't yet to meet Dillon, but sadly, like they I don't know. They just love it and
keeps you grounded. Though,
yeah,
and reminds
for sure.
you like, yeah, we do. I mean, we really do. It's I've found myself trying to take those steps back from time to time, like in the craziness of a day or a schedule, to be like, oh yeah, but we're also doing X today, and like,
for sure,
who gets to do that?
Mm-hmm. No, for sure.
Well,
I think seeing my family and like my hometown friends hang out with my tour friends is like I swear to God, I'll like cry every time. Like
that's awesome.
Like, dude, because some of my best friends from home have hung out with like all of my tour friends before, and I'm like, dude. Like this is colliding worlds, and like it makes me so happy. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, and obviously it's like a proud moment. You know, so that's like my favorite.
Cool. Of
probably everything.
And then give me, and I'm interested to hear what your answer for this one is. So number one touring essential, but I want to make sure everybody's clear.
Yeah.
Phones and computers aren't included because clearly we all like that's just like if you're on the road and touring and working, you're gonna have your phone and your computer.
Does my camera count? I mean,
I'm gonna say your camera's excluded from this too because I know you're gonna have. So give me your like what like so when you're gonna like right now you're leaving, you have your. I'm looking at your bags over here, your duffel bag and your suitcase.
Okay, I got.
What's your one thing like you have to have on the road?
So this is really new. Mm-hmm. This is the first trip that I've ever done this. But after this tour, I will never leave my house to go on another tour.
This is the thing I'm looking for.
Without slides or these slippers. Like, just like...
you got a good pair of slippers.
Well, Dillon just got me those.
That's
dude,
rad.
They're great. And I'll just like wear... Because like, you take off your shoes in hotels and stuff like that.
They're the Allbirds slippers. They're the internet slippers. Because I feel like
amazing.
You can wear them like true slippers and slide the heel down or wear them. Yeah, these are nice. I'm just going to describe them for folks listening at home.
So I've been wearing them. I wear them at my apartment all the time, but I never thought to bring them on the road.
Slippers are a game changer on the road.
Like, unbelievable.
I feel
unbelievable.
I feel very fortunate lately to be working for an artist big enough where the hotels are top notch and there's a robe and slippers usually. That's like that's my favorite thing these days.
Yeah.
I'm very, very, very fortunate.
It's so crazy because I just started doing it and like, I'll wear my sneakers out all day long.
Right.
But I think for me, it took me a really long time to try to balance and try to make myself feel comfortable without feeling like I'm on the road. And I'm sure you probably felt that too. Mm-hmm. It's like you come to these hotels, but how do you make yourself feel like you're at home? And whether it's like bringing like a candle and like, some, whatever. But my thing now is literally my slippers.
Oh yeah.
It's such a game changer.
My thing in that vein is somebody told me that I should get like a HDMI cable for my phone, and I was like, I want to be able to be like have my phone, so I just got one for my computer. So like, and just a day where you can put on Netflix on the big screen.
I've done that too,
and not pay for it. Like that. That's my like. It makes me feel like like you're saying, be chill, put a vibe on, and then just watch a movie.
Yeah, I've brought an HDMI to edit through a TV before.
That's even more resourceful for you.
Monitor,
yeah,
I've done it. Yeah, that's like it's weird. It's weird, but
all right. And the other, I'm trying to round this out to like 3 solid questions. So the other question that pretty much everybody's going to get asked is, what advice would you give to yourself? I'm going to just say 5 years for you because you're still coming up on pushing 10. But so 5 years ago, what would you offer to yourself now that you've seen a couple more things like that, like to do 5 years ago? Like what would you tell yourself?
I'll be honest. Okay, so I used to party like a lot on the road. And I think that's something, not saying I regret it. I was really young and, I was like, man, I'm on the road. Like, this is great. And alcohol
perils of a young man.
Yeah, exactly. And I was single and all that stuff, But I kind of wish that I didn't party as hard because I feel like I kind of lost a little bit of the work aspect of things.
Okay.
I felt like I got a little too comfortable sometimes at points. And my work wasn't the best or what I wasn't trying to work as hard because I was like hungover and I was like, wow, fuck this. Like, so that was like one thing. I was like, I definitely took advantage of the dark side of touring.
Sure. But I mean, we see it, we experience it every day.
Exactly.
But you've clearly grown from that.
Yeah,
so that's why you're offering yourself that advice, which I think is great advice.
because you get put in these situations and it's like, oh well, because everyone thinks it's a party. It's like,
but it is, but it isn't.
Exactly, and I think that's something that I was like, ooh, like I need to step back, and I did step back from it. Yeah, well, that's great. Okay, so then I'll jump out of that too.
Give me one thing you do now for your health, whether it be physical or mental health. Like, what's a thing that you've kind of grown into on the road? So if you're saying you kind of stepped out of maybe drinking so heavily or partying or whatever you were doing, and now, like, what have you maybe put in place of that you do a little bit more religiously on the road?
I don't really like work out. I think for me,
it can just be a thing that you do to give you like away from shooting or your computer,
sure.
just to like be peaceful.
I think a lot of it has to come down to because since we've been touring for so long, it's like we know a lot of people in different cities.
Mm-hmm.
I think a huge thing is either staying in touch with those people and going to see them, and like going out of the touring circle to like experience something new and like stay in touch with these people and like reconnect and do whatever. I think that has been
escaping the venue or your hotel room
escaping the venue and like seeing other friends and kind of trying to go that route. Like it's like I just hung out with Alex from Mayday and just had lunch with him and
and then you also got to go see Nashville while you were doing
exactly that. Yeah. So I think that is probably the best thing that I could do.
Same. I usually try and
you gotta get out, man.
And then to go along with that though, give me, because I feel like you drink coffee as well.
Yeah, big coffee.
Do you have a favorite spot in America? Because that narrows it down a little bit.
Okay.
But do you have Mike was easy. Mike said Madcap.
Oh God.
Because that's his favorite.
I'll be honest, and not to sound like a good friend or anything, but I love Anchorhead.
You can be a good friend. We can name drop. I'm happy to plug them any day.
I love going there. I love seeing Jake. I love the coffee. It's so good. I think Anchorhead is actually probably the coffee, or the style of coffee that got me into
into
coffee. Sorry, I didn't know how to say that, but yeah. I was like, man, this is a thing, and then and then there's a whole
So we all he got brought up last podcast or a few podcasts ago, depending on when this comes out.
With Mike?
With Mike.
Nice.
Mike brought him up. Mike actually put Jake's email address on the podcast. So I hope, again, if you go back to the first podcast with Mike Finn and you want to email Jake Paulson, just tell him we say hello from the Notes from the Road podcast.
So funny.
But so Jake Paulson and another buddy of ours, Mike Steiner, they were both road guys too. They're both audio engineers, and then they kind of took a big leap and have opened several coffee shops in the greater Seattle area now. And I mean, I got a coffee education from them too, because that's one of my favorite things to do on the road. But cool, respect. They make it's some of the best coffee I've had as well.
So good.
They were always like this with sound. So as soon as they said they were doing coffee,
you're like, it's going to be successful.
They can't sleep. Like they don't sleep over it. So I appreciate that always.
Have you been to the store? Or
just the one downtown, it's very so like they took the idea of like a dark metal aesthetic and turned a coffee shop.
Even
into
their
that.
Instagram, like because Jake's like taking the pictures
super
now.
dark.
Oh, it's so good.
Like for somebody like yourself, when you see that, like you like that they have a motif, like they've kind of followed that realm of like, all right, an artist.
Well, that's
we have
nowadays with like a lot lot of coffee spots, like dude, even like Alfred's or something, they all have a certain way that they're posting like images and stuff like that. And it's a reason why people go there.
Right.
It's like even to just post a picture on Instagram. It's like, oh, I went there.
Right.
And Alfred's is.
And they're selling you. Alfred is selling you LA. Like LA vibe and LA girls and Instagram models. Like they're selling you that vibe.
You go there and that's all. Yeah. That's right.
All right. Well, do you have anything you'd like to add? Do you have anything you want to plug? This is your time for that. You can plug. I mean, I'll link everything in on socials to your socials, etc. Thomas Falcone. Are you just at Thomas Falcone?
Thomas Falcone, yeah.
Okay.
Twitter.
Do you have anything else? So anything else going on right now?
No, just hanging. Trying new stuff every day. I think that's probably the goal. I think that's all.
Cool. And then where are you guys off to? Again, Thomas is starting tour today. Basically, he's going to get on a tour bus tonight and leave Nashville.
I'll be honest with you. My mom called me today. She's like, "Where are you guys going?" I had to look at the routing. We're doing like Madison, Minneapolis, Chicago, St. Louis, Kansas City, Dallas, Austin.
Coming back here, I know, at some point, too.
We are coming back here, actually. Yes, the 17th. Which is in 3 weeks.
Well, if this thing gets up on the internet fast enough, check out the Dillon Francis tour dates for those of you that might be interested in Dillon, and maybe go say hello to Thomas at one of these shows. He'll be running around the venue like a maniac, I imagine.
Yeah, I'm running around always. But yeah, just keep shooting, try new stuff. I would say shoot everything and everyone. You never know who's going to help you out. I think that's anything in touring, I think you give a bone and you'll get one back, no matter if it's 10 years down the road, or a day later,
Right.
I think that's always been my thing. And not saying I'm trying to help everyone out, but just
actually, yeah. Wait. So I'll leave one final question, and then we'll sign off. But so I know you mentioned Adam Elmakias earlier as a mentor.
Just texted me.
Favorites? Give me top 3 right now. Other favorite
music photographers?
Yeah, music photographers in the world that you exist in. He can be one if you want to. That's totally fair.
Yeah. No, well, I won't say my name. Okay, so
no, I said Adam. So Adam can. Not
Adam.
You.
Adam
can be one.
Okay, so there's this dude named Greg Noire.
Okay.
Noire. He's very new to shooting. He's 33 or so. He probably just started shooting 2 years ago, and he's on tour with Childish Gambino.
Wow.
Great dude.
Okay.
Hysterical. Work is phenomenal.
I'd imagine if Donald Glover's got somebody out with them.
He blew up in seconds. It was the fastest I've ever seen anyone be on the road, and I was like, wait, what? What is happening? So he's great. Greg Noire. Elmakias, obviously, he doesn't really tour as much anymore. And then Josiah Van Dien's best friend.
Yeah,
obviously. But yeah, those are probably my 3 faves. Who else?
Well, no, that's
Danny Clinch, obviously, but
yeah. When we had a at-length conversation again, and it goes back to Access. That guy,
exactly.
He's been around forever, and he's been in the mix of some of the most kind of amazing scenes of rock and roll for the last 30 years. But I mean, that's great. That's it.
There's a lot
so
I only follow
photographers.
Literally only follow photographers, but yeah.
Cool. Well, Thomas Falcone,
legend.
Thank you for being a part of this.
Thank you, my sir.
And we'll catch you next time.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Big shout out to Thomas Falcone for joining us on this episode. I hope you all laughed at his fake ID story as much as I did. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram @NotesFromTheRoadPod and subscribe and rate us on Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, or your preferred podcast listening site. Notes from the Road is produced and engineered by Isaac Burkhart, along with production and design by Andrew Cook. Thanks. See you next time.